This is the voice of admin, and this is Clancast number 3 with Michelle Paver, who's very kindly come in from editing Ghost Hunter, last book in the series, to answer your questions. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, everybody.
Thanks for coming in.
No problem
really
at all.
Appreciate
It's a real
it.
pleasure.
We're going to kick off today with Great Mountain Wolf, who says, "Hi, Michelle Paver. Miss Paver. I'm a big fan of yours. I love your books. Well, I have a question about the clans and their clan creatures. If it's against clan law to kill your clan creature, then what do some of the clans do if their clan creature is on the menu? Like the Red Deer clan, do they eat their clan creature or do they leave it alone?"
Well, it won't be on the menu for that clan. That's the short answer. The slightly longer answer is at times they will obviously have to, and with some ceremony, have to kill their clan creature in order to get the fur or whatever. But that will be particular instances, and they probably wouldn't eat them anyway. So yeah, the red deer, they can't eat venison. They can eat roebuck, but they can't eat red deer. So some clans, have a problem. Of course, the red deer can eat aurochs and horses and lots of other things as well. But if you're a rowan, for example, you're in a better position, aren't you? Because you don't want to eat the bark anyway.
Yes. Now, Kiona Luku has a fascinating question here. Several questions, actually. The first one is, if for some reason you found out right now, at this very moment, you could only say one final word before you could no longer speak, what would that word be and why?
Well, I think I'd probably miss my chance to speak at all because I'd be so struck dumb with horror at the thought of not saying anything that if I said anything, it would probably be no or something like that. I don't think it would be any sort of amazing word of wisdom because I'd just be so horrified. So there we go.
Yeah, kind of spooky.
Interesting.
Yeah. When Keanu Luca also wants to know, when you began to conceptualise the Soul Eaters, did you intend for them to be more complex grey characters instead of the sometimes overdone black and white good versus evil idea? In other words, did you always want the Soul Eaters to be complex to a point of making them real, making them human, and making the reader wonder how and why they believe what they do?
Yes, I wanted to make them complex in the sense that they needed to have a reason, justification for doing what they were doing, even though it was evil. Because when you think about it, even evil people tend to have reasons. I mean, Hitler, he had his reasons for doing the things he did. They were absolutely appalling things, and he was an evil person, but he probably didn't think he was evil. So yeah, I did work things out from their point of view right from the beginning. Why are they trying to gain power? It's not just because they really in love with power. They have their own reasons, and then because there are different reasons for them, that makes them slightly more complex. For example, Neff is quite a conflicted character. And I find them more believable then, that they're not just, as you say, sort of black and white characters. But one can't go into too much detail because, you need to keep the story going.
Keanu Luca also finally says, "I'm in several literature classes at Brigham Young University in Idaho. As an aspiring author, I've been exploring books and the use of different mythologies within them. I was doing a project on this for my science fiction and fantasy literature class when I started to notice some things like Celtic, Irish mythology, and even Christian mythology, though I don't usually count the Bible as mythology, laced throughout the world in COAD. I was wondering what types of mythology you were influenced by, and if you did research on them, or if they just came out natural. Example, the figure that walks the deep forest, with the antlers, the great flood, the connections I found to the children of Israel in the Old Testament, etc."
Yeah, well, that's a fascinating question. I mean, I've always been interested in mythology. So right from when I was a child, I've read particularly the Norse myths, the Greek myths, ancient Egyptian. And when I was researching these books, I did look into the myths of hunter-gatherers, the mythological world of the Inuit, American Indian, Aborigine, some African tribes. So, yeah, I mean, myths have informed this world quite a lot. Because it's set in Northern Europe, I think I was quite influenced by the Norse myths, Viking myths. And in a sense, you could say that there are some aspects of Odin in Torak. Not many, but, he has a wolf as his attendant, as his friend. He also has ravens with him. So yes, there are some of it's subconscious. I don't always intend it to be that way. But yes, there's an awful lot in there.
Rider's Dream says, "What happened to the Nanuak in Book 1? I wonder if a reference will be made to it in Ghost Hunter. I believe the Nanuak plays an important role in Torak's world."
Well, the Nanuak certainly did play an important role. Now, I have to be a bit careful here because if you're referring to the 3 specific parts of the Nanuak, which were collected in Wolf Brother, then I can tell you that they're not going to be a major part in Ghost Hunter because, of course, they ended up in the mountain. If you're talking about the Nanuak as the world soul, in more general terms, then that is quite important in Ghost Hunter. I'm not going to say any more.
Nope, that's out of limits, isn't it, really? Black Wolf says, or asks, if you were in Torak's shoes during his time, how do you think you'd react if you were outcast from the clan?
Yeah. See, I like to think I'd be okay about it because I do quite like, I love being on my own. So I like to think I'd just say, right, get lost then. I'll be on my own, I'll be fine, I'll survive and everything. But I suspect that I would probably be a bit like Torak and I'd get soul sick in the end because, I don't think people can live on their own totally. I know I'd end up talking to myself.
Or writing more, who knows?
Yeah.
Or inventing writing, maybe. Torak the listener says, hi Michelle, I was just wondering, what's the reason Torak is never with the Wolf clan? Surely they'd like to have the Spirit Walker in their clan.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? But you see, they did not help him when he really needed help. At the beginning of Outcast, they came along and they didn't help him because they said, you're not Wolf clan, technically. So I think he doesn't really have very warm feelings for them. Well, why would you? So he's not really going to say, well, I'll desert the Raven clan and go and live with the Wolf clan because, unlike the Wolf clan, the Raven clan has actually helped him quite a lot.
Spirit World has got quite a few questions. I'll just try to summarise them. How did the environment you were living in affect your writing?
Well, in some ways it affected it because, I live in Wimbledon, South London. It's a suburb. I've got a little house, quite a nice garden, and the gardeners helped because, I stare out of the window and I see squirrels doing weird things. You wouldn't believe the things squirrels get up to, really weird. And birds, wiping their beaks on twigs and things. So that helps. But for the rest of it, it doesn't at all. And that's the thing about being a writer. I live on quite a busy road with lorries going past. And I just have to screen it all out. But when I'm writing, I'm in Torak's world.
Yeah. Next question is very similar, really. Have you gotten attached to the characters?
Have I got attached to them? Yes. I don't think I've yet understood emotionally that I'm saying goodbye to them. I've had Wolf and Ren and Torak and Finkedden with me for so long, and they really are with me all the time. I'm walking to Sainsbury's and they're with me in my head. So I'm very attached to them. Yeah.
What did you feel when you finished the last chapter of Ghost Hunter?
I felt really weird, actually. And this is when I'd, written the last bit, because I was writing longhand first, and I wrote the end underneath it. I actually wrote that and underlined it twice. Now, I felt incredibly weird, partly very, very pleased and relieved that, I had brought it to a very, very, what I think is a good conclusion. But also very sorry that I'll be saying goodbye to them. So completely mixed feelings.
Yeah. Are you planning to make a tour in Egypt or other countries in North Africa?
Well, at the moment there are no plans for that I know of. A lot of it depends on being asked to come by the local publishing company, and at the moment there are no plans, but who knows?
Well, if you live there, why don't you get in touch with whoever's publishing Michelle there and say, bring her over for a tour?
I'd love to come.
Yeah.
I'd certainly love to come. I've been to Egypt and some North American countries, on holidays and things, and I love it.
Yeah. Flame Wolf wants to know, will COAD products now be produced, e.g. a nice book holder for the series, purses, wallpapers, etc.?
Oh, I love the idea of a book holder for the series. That's really nice. I should mention that to my publishers. At the moment, there aren't any particular plans, apart from, I think, that there might be some little thing to go with some of the volumes of Ghost Hunter, in the same way that they produced, those little medallions or something. So I don't know. The posters possibly, but not on a sort of mass-marketed scale.
And of course, Flame Wolf, that on the clan, if you are brilliant enough to win any of our competitions, then there are lots of goodies that you can get there by winning, but you can't buy them. You can't have them for money, but you can win them if you're good enough, and there will be some fantastic competitions coming up really soon. Leaf says, will there be any other COAD books after Torak, Wolf and Ren have had their adventures? Will there be any short books about how the forest and its inhabitants live after Torak's time, or a shorter book about the other animals' points of view. Your books have been an inspiration, and many will miss Torak dearly.
Well, I can't rule anything out. What I can say is at the moment I haven't got ideas for other stories set in this world, partly because it's Torak and Wren's and Wolf's world, and I can't really think without them. But I don't want to rule it out. The next thing I write will probably be something in a different kind of world. So, that might sound sad, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be really, really exciting.
Yeah, one door closes, another opens.
I think that's right. But I'm not ruling out the possibility. I mean, I do like writing from animals' points of view, so I'm not ruling out the possibility at some stage after a little bit of a break.
Callie Malik says, I've been thinking long and hard about a really good question to ask you. I might have even been a little distracted in class today, talking with some other fans about a question, and as they don't have computers, I've been chosen to post it, which is rather an honour. Did you have any regrets writing COAD? Maybe where you thought it was all too much, or where you just couldn't find the time? I get that a lot when I try to write my book.
Well, I know what you mean, but this is going to sound so arrogant. No, I don't have any regrets. And that's really because I did not let myself be rushed. I did not let myself run out of time. That's meant that over the last 6 years, I have worked all the way through Christmas, New Year and all that stuff, but and sometimes delivered the books a couple of months late. But I've just decided right from the start, I am not handing in these books until I'm absolutely 100% sure that they're the way I want them.
Well, her next question is on that subject, actually. She says, as all the books up until now have been fantastic, did you feel you were under a lot of pressure to make the final book just as good?
Oh, the pressure started after Wolf Brother, I can tell you. Goodness gracious, the pressure. Because I didn't actually expect Wolf Brother to be that successful. You don't as a writer. And when it did, the pressure to come up with the second one was the greatest pressure of all, because can she do it again, sort of thing. Thank goodness I had planned the series from the start, so I knew where I was going. And that actually has helped all the way through, so that, yes, there is a certain amount of pressure, but I've just somehow found the mental strength just to put it on one side when I'm writing the books and not think about you lot, quite honestly. And that's why I don't go on the website, because there the pressure would come every day. And so I'm sorry, but it helps make the books better.
Yeah. That's what we want. Darkness Wolves says, hey, I was wondering, once you finished with editing Ghost Hunter and all that, will you do maybe a spin-off type series like Chronicles of Medieval Darkness or Chronicles of Modern Darkness?
Well, I can almost certainly tell you, I don't think anything modern. I just don't really want to write about modern stuff. I don't know why. Medieval at the moment, not particularly. The power of the church and all that sort of stuff doesn't grab me. What I like about the Stone Age is it's so free. A series, now you're talking. Another series, that's all I'm going to say.
All right. Auroch Hunter's got a very similar question, actually, but it's something rather cool, so let's ask it again in any case. Auroch Hunter says, first thing that I love these books, and I'm really sad that Ghost Hunter will be the last. By the way, it got so good that me and my friend showed up at a party as Torak and Wren.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Excellent.
And Auroch Hunter says, would you ever be inspired to write more books?
I'll definitely be inspired to write more books. I mean, I've had an idea in my head for the last year about a character, and I'm really getting quite keen on that. Not sure if they'll be set in Torak's world. As I mentioned, I think they're so closely bound up with Torak and Wren and Wolf.
Yeah. Infinite says, how did you get the idea of describing Wolf's world in the way you did? I mean, it must be very hard to make it believable, so I figured you most likely thought of many ways, but why did you choose to write it this way?
It wasn't actually that hard. It was quite weird. I knew a lot about wolves. I had studied wolves. I knew, how good their hearing was, their eyesight, that sort of thing. And then I just imagined myself being a wolf. And it's really been quite easy. I mean, whenever I've had a question like, how does wolf think of souls? It's just come to me when I've been wolf. It's the breath that walks. Of course it is. That's how he sees it.
The other question from an Infinite is, my other question is, Would you change your books if you could? Would you rewrite some parts, change names? You obviously knew from the beginning how the story would go, otherwise you couldn't refer back to happenings in the first book, like Torak's tribe tattoo.
You're absolutely right. I knew what was going to happen, because otherwise I'd tie myself in knots, wouldn't I? I wouldn't change anything. That sounds so weird. And, I get a chance to read these books very, very carefully, because I'm always in the studio when Ian McKellen is reading each of the books for audiobooks. And that means, I'm sitting there reading it through really carefully. And I'm not sitting there thinking, oh, isn't this brilliant writing? I'm not that vain. But there isn't anything I want to change, because I have agonised over, 40-odd drafts for each book. And that's given me the chance to get it the way I want it.
Mm. World Ginger Thing says, my first question is, do you think you will tour further up north sometime? I was going to attend one of your talks in Richmond, but it was cancelled. You have lots of fans up here, and it would be brilliant to get to meet you.
Yeah, I know. I'm really sorry about that. That bothered me for months, actually, that cancellation. And I would very much like to be up north a little bit more, because I know I haven't been. That's been sort of pressure of time, and it's really up to Orion, the publishers. They organise my tour, but by coincidence I am meeting the publicity lady for Orion this afternoon, and I shall make that very point to her, so thank you.
Got to do Richmond.
Yeah.
My second question is, would you like to be involved in helping cast Wolf Brother, the Wolf Brother film, like Philip Pullman was with The Golden Compass, or just be involved in general, or even not be involved at all?
I think I'd like to be kept informed. That's always nice to know. But film, it's a different art form, and it's different. And so I think it would be a bad idea if I got involved. I'm not a filmmaker. I don't know what makes a good film, and I think I'd be much happier just writing something else.
My third question is, what language do the characters speak? There's been a lot of debate on this subject recently here at the clan. Some people think that Torak and Ren actually spoke in grunts. Surely they were developed enough to actually talk. Thank you for solving this mystery.
I'm so glad you asked that. Nobody's asked me that question. Definitely don't talk in grunts. No. That would have been thousands and thousands of years ago. And this is only 6,000 years ago. So, they look like you and me, that they don't have heavy brows or anything like that. They don't talk in grunts. The language they talk is not a language we speak today. In our terminology, it would probably be what's called Proto-Indo-European, and that simply means an early language derived from Europe via India. Now, what language that would mean, we don't exactly know, but if I just go back a little bit, you can hear the language I'm speaking now. Well, 1,000 years ago, if I was living here, I'd have spoken Anglo-Saxon, and I can give you a little bit of that. For example, Hriran mit hondam primchal dasar, stirring with the hand the ice-cold sea. Hriran mit hondam primchal dasar. It sounds like spells, doesn't it? It's really cool. Mm. Now, Torak and Ren would probably have spoken something maybe a bit like that, but different again, because it's even further back.
Sounds magical, actually.
It sounds magical. Yeah. It's really cool. Mm. So they would have talked. I do think about these sort of things when I'm writing, because I try not to include concepts that they wouldn't have had. But yeah, really nice language.
Half-Blood Ryan says, the cover for Ghost Hunter has just been released, that's in the UK, and it's a beauty. It's my favourite cover of the entire series. Just amazing. Now that all the books have covers, which is your favourite and why?
Well, just on the Ghost Hunter cover, that's interesting. I think it's been leaked by someone, but it's not been finalised yet. So you've got. I haven't seen it on the website yet. So it's not the official cover. It's probably a draft, because we're still at the drafting stage. We've got the general look though, and that won't change. So if what you're talking about, Half-Blood Ryan, is a purple with sort of whitish figures, that's the one. But we're still in the final stages of discussing the colouring of the lettering and exactly how the figures are going to look. But I think it's fabulous. Which is my favourite? Well, I really like the Ghost Hunter cover, because I like the feel of it. I particularly liked Soul Eater. I've got that framed on my desk because I just like that bear. I think he looks so dramatic. And then I've got a sort of sentimental attraction to Wolf Brother, because it was the first one.
Yeah. Have you ever created a character that you wished you hadn't? Perhaps one that's caused you trouble, while writing because of their personality, or perhaps one that you just don't like for various reasons, and if so, who and why?
Well, the characters I don't like, I love writing about. I mean, that's one of the things, I don't like any. I particularly dislike Thiazi. He's everything I completely dislike. And yet I loved writing him, and that's part of the fun of writing. Sometimes characters you can have trouble with because they don't come into focus properly. That happened with Doreen, the Red Deer leader. And then I suddenly realised what she was about, that she's a know-it-all, and she's a really irritating character. And once I got that, I really liked her, because then I knew where I was going with her. So no, there's no character that I wished I hadn't created, no.
Major of the Phoenix Clan says, when you released Wolf Brother, did you ever think that Chronicles of Ancient Darkness would become this popular?
No, I didn't. I really didn't. I just wrote the first six chapters thinking, I want to write this book. And it was quite inconvenient because I was supposed to write a grown-up book. But I just wanted to write it. And it kind of took hold.
Agwang says, hi Michelle, first off I'd like to thank you for taking time off your obviously busy schedule to read this, so thanks. I remember that you came to my school about 3 years ago. Do you remember? It was in Singapore.
Yes.
I was in grade 5 then, and so excited. I was that little blonde one that showed you around our school after you gave us that talk.
Oh, I remember that. Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Made an impression. So first, Agwang says, how are you doing? I mean, apart from the sadness that I think you must be feeling now that COAD is finished, but I guess you must be feeling extremely proud too.
I think you've guessed it, actually. Yeah, very proud, because I'm really pleased with Ghost Hunter and the way it ends. But yeah, a bit sad. I felt very tearful, actually, the first few days. In fact, I sort of had a crying jag and everything like that. But then that got it out of the way, and that's what you're supposed to do. And then I felt quite relieved at not having to write a book this year. And after that, I got bored very quickly and started another one.
Well, that's good, because Agwang also wants to know if you're going to keep writing, and I think you've already answered that. That's about it, I guess, and maybe it's more than you expected, sorry, but as I said, I'm such a massive fan. I've even got Wolf Brother, Spirit Walker, Soul Eater, and Outcast signed, though Soul Eater and Outcast were signed as part of a prize. And I promised myself that I will get the last two signed as well. And actually, I do remember, Agwang, that you were one of our big contest winners. So
well done.
many congratulations for that. It was the cover contest. Was the biggest contest.
I remember that. Yeah. Gosh, congratulations.
And just to tell you that we will be running more, even bigger contests quite soon on the clan. So there will be more opportunities to get more. Well, maybe the last two signed as well.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah, let's hope so.
Sophie says. I'm sure this is one of the most frequently asked questions, and I'm sorry you have to answer it again, but I was wondering if there will be a Wolf Brother film and if they will have opening editions. I was also wondering at what age. I think that's not editions. I think that's auditions. Because yes, a number of people have asked if they can play Torak or Ren.
Yeah.
And I was also wondering at what age did you want to become a writer, and what inspires you the most?
Well, just on the film, that's in development, and that's a term which can mean pretty much anything. They've got a script, which I think is really a good script, and they're working on it, trying to work out where to film it and that sort of thing, but they haven't actually made the final decision to film yet. So I'm afraid that's all I can tell you about that. Because they haven't made that final decision, no auditions at the moment. So I'm afraid, because I'm not sort of linked with the film, that's all I can tell you about that.
As soon as we do get any firm news on the film, you can rest assured that the clan will be the first to know.
Definitely. There was another question at the end.
Yeah, it was, at what age did you want to become a writer?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't think about becoming a writer. I just thought about wanting to write stories, and that started when I was 5. I went on all through school and university. And I think it was probably at university, so I suppose in my early 20s, when I thought it would be nice to get published. That's when I started, taking it a bit seriously.
Finally, Demon Wolfie says, I'm writing a novel, Wolf Warrior.
Oh, great.
About a mythical forest with talking animals, ogres, dragons, etc. I'm only up to page 8 of Microsoft Word, which is about 2 or 3 novel pages, or something like that. Anyway, my question... I was wondering if your characters like mine are based on people you know, like my character Wolfie, who is like me and my sis, or completely made up from scratch, like my other character, Rogu.
They're not often completely made up from scratch. There's usually something. I mean, Torak is a loner, so there's a little bit of me in him. Ren is very critical and doesn't suffer fools gladly, so that's me too. There are bits of me, and then bits of people I admire in, say, Finkedin, for example. But then they start to take their own character. So it's a kind of mysterious mixture. Perhaps somebody real will give me the idea, but then I take it from there.
That's fantastic. Michelle, I want to say thank you so much for being, well, the central part of Clancast number 3.
Great pleasure.
Great. Fantastic questions, actually, weren't they?
They're superb questions, yeah.
And if your question hasn't been answered yet, don't panic, because we've got plenty more